Hey guys, Mark from Ecom Warriors. Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be answering a question that I got on my last video. On the last video was me essentially telling my story on how I got started in e-commerce to how I eventually became successful in a short, simplified version. So I got a question from somebody who watches the videos. His name is Jamie. So shout out to Jamie. He said, it's more personal when you hear a story from someone that's been through struggles and now is doing well. So for that's the video, what would you say was the hardest thing to get over for you? Was it website design, right product, ads, etc.? And I'm actually going to share that information. So for me, it really wasn't website design. It wasn't finding the right products. It wasn't the email marketing. It wasn't all this stuff, because all that stuff for me was learned. I could learn it. For me, it was believing that in the possibility. I had so many doubts. People around me were doubting the process. A lot of people didn't think it was real, whether it be friends, things like that. For me, in the process of me building my business, before I made any kind of money, before I made my very first sale, like I said, it took me 6 months to get my very first sale. And I was working every single day. In college, I was working in the classroom on my business, right? I brought my laptop to school. I would work in the AM hour when people were sleeping. I was working. I would try to, if I, was able to sneak in a few hours here and there to go to sleep, I would. And I would try to work as hard as I can. I think the hardest thing that I had to go through was just this very, very long time of realizing, like, maybe this is not for me and maybe it is for me. But this is just what I learned is a necessary doubt that everybody has to go through for a period of time. And some people will go through it less and some people will go through it more. It just depends on, I guess, your style of work and what you do and your niche and I guess all that kind of stuff, right? Your IQ too. For me, I'm an average IQ person, so it's not like I was exceptionally smart. But I had to deal with things, emotional problems, to get past certain roadblocks. I mean, when it comes down to SEO or when it comes down to creating the best ad or creating all these different things, the things that I worried about the most was, is this actually going to succeed? And I remember I've tried everything in the book. I remember with e-commerce. You name it, I've done it. Amazon, FBA. Blogging, affiliate market. I've done everything in the book, literally. I don't say that to brag. I say that to impress upon you that I've put in so much effort. And there was this huge period of time where I was working, but I wouldn't get anything out of it, which is also a mistake of mine. I diverted my attention in multiple different avenues, which also led to me, lack of success in the beginning, because my lack of success, it was based upon my lack of impression. When I say impression, I couldn't sit down and focus on just one thing. I was always working on 10 different things, and that really slowed down the process for me in the beginning, and that was the hardest thing to deal with, because when you're working at something, especially, in a world of instant gratification. When we live in a world of instant gratification, as soon as I want to watch a video, boom, it's on my phone. The video's there. If I want to text somebody or communicate with somebody, I have it on my phone right there. It takes 2 seconds to do it. If I'm going to study for an exam, it's really not that hard. I could go study for the exam and get close to 100 or ace it. It wasn't that difficult. But e-commerce for me, I walked in thinking that I could do it easily. I walked in thinking that this was not going to be hard or difficult. But that same sorry, I got a text. That same, I guess, delusionality is the thing that kept me going. Because that approach, that, I will win attitude is the same thing that kept me moving forward, right? Because I had this feeling that no matter what happens, I'm eventually going to win. And that's exactly what happened. But it took a long time to get there. And that was the hardest part. The hardest part was working at something, expecting to be successful early and not being successful. And just consistently working, and waiting on my time. And the next 2 years after that were very, very difficult. Ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. But those ups and downs are the period where there's the most growth. that instability is where there's the most growth. And I think, in my opinion, to go from zero to $1,000, it's much, 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 much more difficult than to go from, like, let's say $1,000 to $5,000. Because at that point, it's just a matter of doubling down on your behavior, just doing what you know. But going from 0 to 1,000, you're starting from scratch. You're starting from nothing. You have no mental resources. You don't know what to do. You're not sure if you can make it or you could fail. And I think also the biggest success that I had was working alone and not in a partnership. And let me explain. A lot of the times with partnerships, you guys are relying on each other for the business success. One person looks to the other, the motivation, the hard work, etc. But, for me, if my first business venture was with a partner, maybe I would have never gone through business ever again, because I would have seen the struggle. The struggle was so hard. On top of that, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if your partner is holding you back, it could be very possible. And that probably would have happened to me, or maybe I would have held my partner back, because, I just remember my beginnings to entrepreneurship was different in a way that I can't really explain. When I first started, dropshipping wasn't well known. Dropshipping wasn't called dropshipping. It was only until I had sold the clothing store online that it was then dropshipping started to emerge, and there were a few videos here and there. I think the girl's name was Wholesale Ted. She used to make videos explaining the process, and I was like, man, I was doing that a long time ago, but I didn't do that for the purpose of dropshipping. I didn't do that just to make money online. I did that just to beef up my online store so that people would respect my business and respect my brand, and they could see a whole bunch of different products. And I didn't know it was called dropshipping. I just had an idea where I go to a Chinese website and put the products on my website, and whenever somebody orders, I kind of, finagle it that way. And when I started to see, as I was working, during the beginning of my process, there was always these make money online videos and things like that. And I would always watch them, and I'd be very surprised. It would be like, an 18 or 16-year-old kid who was just as old as me or older, or a little bit older, or a little bit younger, and he was making like something like 30 grand a month or 50 grand a month, and I couldn't even get my first $100 online the month. And I thought, maybe this is not for me. These guys are making thousands and thousands of dollars at young ages, and it doesn't seem difficult for them. And they're doing everything that I'm doing, right? They run the ad, they have the website, they have everything that's set up. Maybe this is just not my kind of operation. And that was a thought that I had in the back of my head. But at the end of the day, I really ignored all my thoughts, and I just kept moving forward, which was the hardest part. But honestly, I had no other choice. I really didn't have the option to just focus on my schoolwork, because at the end of the day, I knew that I didn't want to be under the control of somebody else. I didn't want to, have to show up to work at a certain time or have to dress a certain way. And I was always eclectic. I had like a mohawk and things like that. So I knew that I wouldn't fit into the corporate environment very well. My ideas were great. If I was to work for somebody and push some ideas forward, I think I would do a phenomenal job, hence my success now in life. But I feel at the same time that, I was never really good for it. I remember a quick story. I applied for a job at college, at the school, so I could make some extra side money to be able to, fund orders a little bit easier and have a little cushion. This was after I had quit from the restaurant job and from the JCPenney job, right? Because I was working two jobs and going to college. And when I applied for the college job, on the application, it asked me, the application said, what do you want to be when you get older? And so logically, I thought in my head, I want to be an entrepreneur or a business person or somebody that makes money, right? And doesn't have to listen to anybody else. And so I said, maybe I shouldn't write that, because the people who are hiring me, right, maybe they're, angry with their life. They work at a college. Because, by the way, guys, at this point in my college, when I went to college, almost everybody hated their life. Like, no professor was ever happy to be there. Everybody was just in a bad mood all the time. The energy was very negative. At least that's the way that I looked at it. Maybe because I was full of negativity at that time because I was unhappy to be there. But at the same time, I guess that's what I saw. And so instead of on my application, instead of writing like business person or owning a company or whatever, I wrote working at Google because I said that's probably the next best thing, right? So I wrote working at Google, and when the lady who was, there were two of them who were reading over my application and interviewing me for this job, at college. And by the way, the job was just, the occupation was to hand out like contraception at pep rallies, like if there was a game or something, I would stand up with a little table and hand out this contraception. I didn't get the job, and she started laughing at me. Like, you get a job at Google? Like, I was almost being demeaned. And mind you, in my opinion, I think it's harder to become an entrepreneur than get a job at Google. Because getting a job at Google, there's like a strict path to do it. You have to be the best at like coding, or the best at this, or the best at that, and have 10 years experience, or, whatever they put on their, requirement resumes, right? Or their requirement for the job listing. And I was like humiliated. She was laughing at me, and I was like, it's okay. This is not anything new, okay? Because I told my dreams and my goals and aspirations to people before, and I was kind of humiliated, laughed at. And so I was kind of used to it, got in my car, and I knew I wasn't going to get the job. And I went back home, and I just continued working on my business even harder and harder and harder. What really made the difference for me is, I'll explain one time, I was working on my business. I was starting to see a little bit of success. I didn't know it yet. This was probably the first month that I had passed $1,000. And mind you, this is all free traffic at this point. At this point, I didn't know how to nail down paid traffic. I just couldn't get it. I think I set up retargeting ads, but I'm not sure. And I went to this incubator, okay? Basically, it wasn't really an incubator. There's a long story behind it. I just don't want to say any names, because if you search them, you would know about them. And they're very well known. So they went out of business because of how bad they were. But the owner, the founder, is very well known. I just don't want to put myself in that position. But anyways, I went to this incubator, and I was expecting to see the owner, the founder of this company. And I didn't, because he went to Tokyo at the time. And like I said, I don't want to say any names. And I was a huge fanboy over this guy. This guy had sold his company at a young age for like $50 million. So he set up other businesses and things like that. So I was a huge fanboy. He's essentially the entrepreneur role model, right? And so I'm driving all the way to New Jersey, from New York to New Jersey. It's about an hour and something minutes for the place that I was going to with traffic, right? Hour and something minutes. I park into this place, right? I bring my like laptop with me, my everything ready to go to show my business. And I guess I had the wrong concept. I thought we were gonna like learn something. I guess I had the wrong concept. And I sit down and I'm trying to like show everybody my work and stuff and what I'm doing. And every person working in this incubator who was qualified to give me business advice, because that's what it was. It was called, it was the name of the company and then Friday. So Founders Friday, right? And I'm not saying the name of the company, but you guys get the point. If you guys search, you would find it. Anyways, so what happened was, all of these employees who were supposed to give business advice on my business were giving me the worst business advice. So I'll give you an example. The sister of the founder, you'd think that she would know something about business. Absolutely nothing. But let me explain, right? She looked at my work, my at the time it was my clothing website, and this was just when it was tiny, guys. It was making like $1,000 maybe. Maybe we had surpassed 1,000 that day. For the month, not in one day, not $1,000 in one day, but 1,000 for the whole entire month. And after a long drive, I get to meet her. She sits down, she looks at my work, and this was a clothing company for men. This was a clothing company for men, powerlifters, bodybuilders, big things like that, right? And she looks at my work and she says, "Where's the female products?" And I'm not really sure what to say. I mean, I didn't think of it. I just thought it would be a hardcore weightlifting brand, of clothing brand for men, right? And she looks at me and she says, "Where's the female products? You need to add female products. You're not succeeding because there's no female products." Mind you, I was succeeding. I was making money. And so I said, you know what? Let me take her advice. Let me add female products. Like an idiot, of course. I take her advice, and the sales go down to zero. Zero. I didn't make another sale after that. I remember, when I first started, the sales would, for that month, there would be a sale like every 3 days, like 1, 2, 3, every 3 days. After that, I didn't get a sale at all. So I said, you know what? Let me check on who this person is. What kind of credibility does she have? And so I searched her Instagram, and I clicked on her link in her bio, which was linking to her other Instagram account of her business, right? And her business was like some kind of yoga, self-help type thing. I looked at it, and she had something like 14 followers. She was following 129 people on the account. On top of that, her link, I clicked on the website link. It was a pixelated, crappy-looking website. You could tell there was absolutely no engagement on the Facebook page. There was nothing going on. Meanwhile, I had worked hard enough to develop over 10,000 followers on my own Instagram page. Like I said, fitness clothing company. And I said, look at who I'm taking advice from. These people are not qualified to speak on business. Just because they were fit in an incubator world doesn't mean they're necessarily, whatever the word is, qualified to give me the business advice. So I changed it. I went back to the male-only products, and guess what? The branding and the sales striked up again. And this was the start for me to learning and truly understanding the concept of conversions. That when people come to my website, right, from certain sources of traffic with this certain, I guess you could say, they have this certain persona, this idea of what my brand is. Because every brand has an identity, right? They have an idea of what the brand identity is that will help during the conversion process. And these ideas that they have will help either me convert more or convert less. And I saw that firsthand, right? By adding the female products, it lost the hardcore effect, almost in a way, for the hardcore bodybuilding men. And this was not something that was based on opinion. This was not something that was rooted into, gender or something, or gender equality. This was none of that. This was pure sales facts. The second we added female products is when the conversion rate went down for the website. And so I said, okay, now I got to study psychology. Now I got to study conversion rate. So I went back, I deleted all the female products, everything went back to normal. Sales went up again. But then I said, this is where I need to start understanding why some people come to my website and buy and some people don't. And from there, the rest was history. When I showed up to that incubator, the biggest thing for me was I learned what not to do. I learned what was going wrong with businesses, and I saw it very, very clearly. See, the thing that was odd about me is that I would always be able to pick apart other people's businesses and they say this is wrong and that's wrong. But I would never be able to sit down and intrusively think about my own. Now, you could cough that up to hubris. You can cough that up to just lack of self-awareness. Whatever it might be, I don't know. But I was right. With my analysis, I was right. Like when I would see a business and say, oh, they're doing this wrong, or this can improve, or that can improve, it was right. And I took that same energy and worked it towards my business. And that's how I eventually grew my business. But that's how it started. And, the hardest point, I remember very, very specifically, before that day, the whole period from the time that I started to before the day I showed up to the incubator, it was all consistently struggle. It was struggle every single day with almost no wins. If the wins were there, they were so small, not be able to cover the costs, put it that way. And what I learned at that incubator was what not to do. What, just because, I mean, this is just my opinion, but don't take advice from somebody that's never built a business or struggled to build a business, And actually, I was talking to my dad about this a few days ago or a few weeks ago, and I said, thank God that guy who I looked up to didn't show up that day. Because had he showed up, I would have not seen the incubator for what it really was and how fake it actually was. And how unqualified these people were to comment on my business. Because if he was there, I would have been so starstruck and fanboyed, right, or fangirled, over some, celebrity, I guess you could say, that made money online or sold a company for $50 million. And that's something I've always wanted. And, And yeah, that was the biggest struggle. The biggest struggle was just going so long and working so hard without anything in return for it. But at the end of the day, that's the sacrifice that you have to make for business. There's a lot of sacrifices you have to make. And I wouldn't really have it any other way, because now I can live a lifestyle where I wake up when I want and go to bed when I want. I could do what I want when I want, right? But that's something a lot of people can't do simply because of their lifestyle, right? They work for somebody, and that's fine. If you work for somebody, that's fine. That's a blessing. I always look at a job now, especially now in my age, with the life experiences I went through. If you have a job, you're lucky to have a job, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have jobs, and they might be just as qualified as you. They might have the degree, but they don't get the job for whatever reason. Unfairness is a real thing in the world, but I didn't think I didn't feel that I fit in a job environment. I just, I just didn't feel good about it. And thank God I didn't have to go through that process, but the process was a long process, and that was definitely the most difficult part, was just to go so long and working so hard with all these doubts in my mind, all these negative emotions of, will I make it? Will I not make it? Will I eventually see some kind of success? And when I say make it, guys, I don't say become a millionaire. That's not what I mean at all. When I say make it, I mean making enough money to be able to sustain a life where I don't have to work for anybody else. That's what I mean by make it. Now, I've surpassed that, thankfully, a long time ago. But when I say make it, is I don't want to have to be forced to essentially apply to a workplace to work for somebody else. That's what I mean by make it, is to be able to forego that path, to go to a new path, to create my own path. That's what I mean by make it. At the end of the day, the way I look at it is, if you're making a full-time income and you're serving yourself and you're working for yourself, that's 100 times better, in my opinion, than working for somebody else giving you $1,000 extra dollars. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. Because when you work for yourself, you are the controller. You don't get bonuses. You don't get extra credit. You really don't get anything special. The only thing you get is a guaranteed salary for a guaranteed job. And a lot of people, and I've heard this on, I don't know where I've heard this, online or maybe Shark Tank or wherever, I've heard this where people say, your salary is the drug that they give you, okay, to essentially forget about your dreams. And in my opinion, that's true for me. Some people are great employees. They would love being an employee, and they would be a successful employee, and that's where they fit. For me, I didn't feel that way, and I'm sure you guys don't feel that way either, or maybe you guys do feel that way. I really don't know. But I know for a fact that you guys are interested in e-commerce or in business, or making more money. That's essentially what you're interested in, and good business habits. It comes with that, right? It comes with that level of success. So, without further ado, I just want to say, everybody, thank you guys for watching this video. I know this video was a little bit long. We're at 23 minutes here. But that was the hardest struggle and the hardest thing I had to go through. Those little wins along the way is what kept me sane. I remember I was very, very depressed at one point because of my lack of success. And that's really all that I cared about. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't care about socialization. I didn't care about looking cool or dressing up in the nicest clothes. The only thing I really, really cared about was being successful in business. Now, later down the line, which I'll talk about that in the future, is it got to my head a little bit after I started succeeding. I hit a certain milestone and got to my head, but we'll talk about that later. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.